What's up guys, Brock Ashby here. In this video I'm going to take you through what shoes to wear when you're training lower body. Should you have a flat shoe or should you have a heel elevated shoe? I'm going to break that down in this video, but before we jump into it, please consider subscribing to my channel. I appreciate your support. Let's go. First of all, we're going to cover the heel elevated shoe. Now you may see these, and if you've been lifting for a while, you may have a pair or you may know what these are.
What are those?
But these are ultimately just called lifters, right? These are weightlifting shoes. So they have a flat bottom, but they aren't flat shoes. They have a heel elevation, so your foot is going to be slightly like that. Kind of like you're on high heels. Like high heels are obviously a bit crazy, but when you have that heel elevation, and this is the way I like to think about it, when there's chicks in the club and they're dancing with their heels and they drop it low and they squat, it's much easier when they have heels on. You try to see them drop it low in Converse chucks like this, it's going to be a different story. So when your heel's elevated, you're able to squat much deeper. And that's because your foot is more like this, so it's going to allow your knees to go over your toes more, which is going to allow you to squat more and be more upright, because it gives you this kind of artificial or fake kind of ankle mobility. If you see people squatting really deep in flat shoes without a heel elevation, they have great ankle mobility. So these shoes with a heel elevation give you kind of this kind of fake ankle mobility, and because your foot's propped up like that, it allows you to squat deeper because your knees can go more over your toes, which isn't a bad thing. They can go more over your toes, and it's going to allow you to get a kind of cleaner squat. Obviously it depends on your goals. You can try and have flatter shoes that won't push your knees over your toes, and you can try to do a low bar squat to bias the glutes more. But if you just want to do a standard squat, or you want to bias your squat for more quads by pushing your knees over your toes like a heel elevated squat, these are going to be great to do the job. I remember when I first got my lifters, and I've had these for 6 years. Like, these shoes last years, and I train legs like 2 to 3 times per week for years now, for 6 years, and they still haven't broken or anything. Like, I suppose I'm only wearing them for about 2 hours a week, but 2 or 3 hours a week. But you know, these are super solid shoes. These are the Nike Romaleos. I know that Adidas have some, Reebok have some lifters, and I'm not promoting any products or saying that this is the best or this is not the best. I just saw these and got them. My mate David had a pair of white ones, and I just got black because I thought it would go with everything. And they've lasted really well. You know, they look pretty cool. You know, they have the red down the bottom there, you know, just the Nike tick on the front. You have the Velcro. So you do the laces up and then you do the Velcro, which keeps it super tight, because people use this for Olympic weightlifting as well. They also use them for powerlifting if they want to. Obviously it has to kind of benefit to the way that their body's set up to do a squat, but these are the lifters. So I would encourage you to use these if you want to train things like squats. I still use them on things like split squats as well if I want to get my knees over my toes. So any kind of exercise where you're pushing your knees further over your toes, you're going to get more knee flexion, which means you're going to challenge the quads more in the lengthened position. Like if you use these on leg extension, it doesn't matter. If you use these on lying leg curl, it doesn't matter, your feet are off the ground. But even on leg press, I like to use these sometimes if I'm going for a quad bias to get more knees over toes. But you know, things like deadlifts, sometimes I do deadlifts in these because I can't be bothered taking my shoes off and swapping, but you generally don't want to use these for deadlifts, because deadlifts, you aren't trying to go for quads, you're trying to go for hamstrings, you're trying to go for glutes, you're going for your posterior chain. So that's when you want to swap to a shoe like this. Ta-da! Once again, I've had these shoes for 6 years. You know, maybe I'm a tight ass and just can't be bothered getting another shoe, but they're perfect. Like I use these once again 2 to 3 hours per week, depends on what I'm training, but these are the flat shoe. Now, why do you want flat shoes when you're training legs? So these are for different types of exercises. As I said before, the lifters you want when you want to get your knees over your toes, when you want to sit nice and upright in a squat, they're going to benefit you. But I like to use these shoes for things like deadlifts, Romanian deadlifts, hip thrusts, calf glute bridges. These are awesome because they are flat. Now, why do you want flat shoes when you're deadlifting? So when you're deadlifting, you want to have your foot as stable as possible. If you want to do it in barefoot, that's probably one of the best options, but your next best is going to be having a flat shoe, because if your foot's flat on the floor like this, it's not moving around. If you deadlift in spongy trainers, they have to compensate with all the cushioning and the sponge that they have between you and the floor. So if you're driving your feet into the floor with the deadlift and you're trying to push away and it has to compensate with the sponge before the floor, then that's just another obstacle it has to go through. But if you're completely flat here and you just push through your feet, it's going straight to the floor with flat shoes. That's why we want minimal padding and why some people prefer to deadlift barefoot or in those kind of powerlifting aqua sock looking things, because they're grippy to the floor, but also you can just push directly into the floor. There's no compensation with an unstable surface. A good general rule for strength training, the more unstable you are, the weaker you're going to be. But the more stability you have, the stronger you're going to be. So let's think about if you're doing a overhead press and you have a couple of dumbbells. If you're seated and your feet are on the ground and you're stable and you push, you're going to be able to get more weight than if you were standing on one leg, balancing and trying to overhead press. Because you're less stable, you're going to be less strong. So yeah, I like to use these for things like deadlifts, for things like leg press. If I'm going for heels high, when you put your heels high on a leg press, you're going to be able to get more hamstrings and glutes, so I would use these. But if I was going for heels low on a leg press and I want to get more knees over toe, then I'd use something like this on the leg press. Like, I'm not trying to make you OCD that you have to carry around 2 pairs of shoes, but if you were doing squats on the A series of the first exercise, and then in the B series you're doing deadlifts, you could bring 2 pairs of shoes, or you could just wear these, and if you're doing anything squat related or something you want to drive your knees over your toes, you can chuck your lifters on, then you can jump out of them and just stay in these. So you could literally just have 2 pairs of shoes. That's going to be fine. That's generally what I do. I just have these shoes or I have the other shoes and I just kind of swap between depending on what exercise I do. I'm not saying you have to have lifters or you have to have completely flat shoes, but they are a good idea if you want to take your training to your next level. If you want to get stronger, you need to kind of give yourself the best opportunity to get stronger. Other flat shoes that you can use are things like Vans. They're very popular. You can use Chucks like this. You can use the low cut ones. I thought these were cool at the time, back in 2016. They're probably not that cool now. It's a bit red. It's not the coolest color, but anyway, I just rock them in kind of remembrance of the early days of lifting when I absolutely loved them. You can get things like Jordans. They are another great shoe. And there's other flat shoes like Zero shoes, and then there's those kind of weird shoes where they're like, you can put your toes in them and they look like gloves. I just think they're weird. But yeah, there's tons of flat shoes out there. One thing I wouldn't recommend is something like basketball shoes or things with too much padding in them, like running shoes. So running shoes have a lot of padding in them to compensate with you and the concrete to reduce the impact on your knees. However, when you're squatting, when you're deadlifting, when you're lunging, when you're training your legs, you don't want all that cushioning. So if you're currently squatting in Yeezys, I'd recommend you change your shoes, or things like Vapor Maxes. I've got a pair of Vapor Maxes. Squatting in them, absolutely terrible idea. Deadlifting, probably even worse. To wrap up this video, guys, if you are training any quad dominant squat exercise, split squat exercise, leg press with heels low, lifters are going to be a great choice for you. And if you're training hip dominant exercises like deadlifts, hip thrusts, calf glute bridges, what else we got? Leg press with your heels high, or even a low bar squat where you're not trying to get your knees over your toe. This is going to be a great option, or any other flat shoe that you want, or even barefoot. Guys, I hope you found great value in this video. As I said in the previous video, I'm just trying to get you better results in the gym, a better body transformation, and better confidence with the knowledge that you have when you're going in to train or going in to follow your nutrition, create a meal plan, whatever you're trying to do, count your calories. I'm here to help. I appreciate you. Please subscribe to the channel. Really trying to grow it and be more consistent. Posting, about 7 to 10 shorts on YouTube per week, and doing a couple of these longer form videos. So hope you like them. If you do like them, please let me know. I appreciate your support. Let's go.